Yeah,
all that shit on
yeah, that's right. That's right.
You the mean queen.
He beat it, I thought. But look at him, y'all. Look at him, y'all. Let's go, champ.
You the mean queen.
Yeah, let's go, champ. I'm the mean queen. Look at him, y'all. He's pretty big, too.
Don't get worried.
Wait a minute.
Don't
Wait
get
a
worried.
minute. Look at his arms. Let's go, champ.
Don't get worried.
I ain't worried, champ.
Don't get worried.
Look at him, y'all. MMA, wait a minute.
Don't
Wait
get
a
worried.
minute. Yeah, I can see it right now. I can see right there.
Even the toughest fighters can be left looking a little quiet next to their rivals. Take Rampage Jackson, for instance. That guy's never been left speechless in his life. But next to Shannon Briggs, he could barely get a word in. But if they fought, that's where things would get interesting. For this video, we're going to find out just how well these bullying trash talkers can handle the heat.
We've done a couple of rounds, but nothing that you could really take anything out of. Sparring stories are sparring stories. Daniel's a good quality kid, but when I say kid, I mean the word kid. There's a lot to learn. I just believe this fight is way too early for Daniel. I'm confident that I'm going to take him out to deep water and I'm going to drown him very slowly. Right?
Tom Little had quite a lot of confidence behind him when he stepped into the ring to take on the rising prospect Daniel Dubois early in his career. In fact, at that point, Dubois had only had 7 pro fights, and according to Little, his own confidence stemmed from the fact that he had trained with his fellow British fighter in the past. Little didn't get into the specifics of how the sessions went, but it was clear to see that he liked his chances in there with the young fighter. And during the build-up to this bout, he made a point of really hammering home the fact that Dubois was little more than a kid in comparison to him, claiming that this young talent was totally out of his depth, something that would become obvious once the fight was underway. Unfortunately, this was yet another example of a fighter talking his way into a beating. And though Tom Little seemed like the more confident guy coming in, he was about to get exposed in a major way. With the British heavyweight title up for grabs, Dubois maintained his calm all the way up to fight night before letting his fists do the talking for him, a trait that many of the great fighters will feature in this video share. Tom Little, as it turned out, was totally out of his depth. Dubois' body punching was truly the story of this fight, and his ability to put the pressure on Little and drive him into the corner only made it easier for him to open up with vicious combination punches. The first knockdown came after a beautiful 1-2 upstairs led to a huge body shot that sent his target crashing to the canvas.
To be a little bit more positive.
Oh, he needed a bit of success, he certainly did, and it's the success which has gone to Daniel Dubois. Tom Little is bravely getting to his feet, he wants to continue, and he is going to continue.
From there, it was only a matter of time before the referee had seen enough.
He looks as though he is poised now, he's really starting to land big shots, and the ref stopped it. He stopped it, body shots, he was right on top. Tom Little hated it when it came. He's saying I could have continued. But Dubois landing more huge body shots, and referee Terry O'Connor saying enough is enough.
Saving Little from a merciless set of huge shots, which included some masterful bodywork from this young prospect.
Therefore, your winner, still undefeated, and now the new heavyweight champion of England, Triple D, Daniel Dynamite Dubois!
May 4th, we're gonna get down. And, you know, I hope I'm not chasing and chasing and chasing and chasing and chasing. Because, you know what? Mexicans, you know what I'm saying? We want to see a fight, right? Raza wants to see a fight, right? We don't want to see a run. I'm gonna run. This is the way I fight.
Prime Oscar de la Hoya was a real talent, folks. In terms of technical skill, grit, and fighting resolve, the Golden Boy was a true standout and a hero to the people. And so when Fernando Vargas took that fight, he knew he'd have to dig deep to challenge him. And in many ways, the first advantage would need to be carved out before a single punch was thrown. So Vargas went about trying to provoke De La Hoya into a war, telling the fans that he was convinced that Oscar would not give him the type of fight he wanted. Vargas took shots at his rival's style, openly questioning whether his adversary would simply run around the ring for the entirety of the bout. Whether he knew that he was outgunned in the technical department or not is one thing, but Vargas clearly seemed to think that his best shot at winning here would be by getting Oscar to fight outside of his comfort zone. to make him want to open up and score that knockout. Unfortunately, Vargas got exactly what he was hoping for, but the end result could not have been further away from what he'd expected. De La Hoya turned up the heat on Vargas in a big way on fight night, putting a merciless beating on him through 11 rounds to reduce him to a bloody mess by the second to last round.
Changed left hooks with De La Hoya. Big right hand upstairs again for De La Hoya. The right hand has been so tremendously effective for him here.
Eventually, Vargas could do nothing but shell up as Oscar pounded his head and body with massive punches, forcing the ref's intervention to stop the fight.
No time to be careless. He's got him going backwards. De La Hoya's got him going backwards. Now he's got Vargas in the corner, throwing punches. And Joe Cortez ends the fight. Joe Cortez has ended the fight.
Vargas had been humbled, and it does make you wonder just how much of a hand Fernando had in sealing his own doom through his pre-fight trash talking. He asked for a war, and he certainly got one.
The winner by knockout victory, and now the unified champion from East LA, the Golden Boy, Oscar De La Hoya.
Fighting me is a whole different ballgame. The only fighter that he's been in there with kind of good style was Pedraza. That was it. He haven't faced somebody like me who's young, 23 years old, who has the energy, and not only that, has great footwork.
Josue Vargas talked a pretty big game coming into this one. Sure, as a young rising talent, it would appear as though momentum was on his side coming in, and he made sure to let his opponent, Jose Zapa, know exactly what he thought of his resume in the lead-up, telling the champion he had yet to truly face a fighter of real quality, or at least of a quality that would be comparable to his own. And this cocky trash-talking continued throughout the entire build-up, to the point where Vargas wouldn't stop talking for even half a second during their face-off. He even grabbed one of his opponent's belt off his shoulder, which, can be good to sell a fight, but man, if you're putting all this effort into provoking your opponent, you'd better be able to produce some form of result on fight night, because if you don't even manage to last a single round in there, you're likely going to end up a total laughingstock. And that's exactly what happened to Josue Vargas here. As it turned out, all of his pre-fight predictions about his opponent's ability were totally off, and all that posturing and bravado-filled nonsense came to absolutely nothing when it mattered most. One-way traffic, folks, and Vargas' pre-fight trash talk looks pretty hilarious in hindsight now.
For your winner by TKO, and still WBC Silver Super Lightweight Champion, Jose Sean Zapata!
Not fighting, like, bro. I'm a monster, dog. Like, you step on the court, you step on football, I'm a bro. Like, y'all don't know what you think this is. You track, whatever. I want to win. So you got another thing coming and think I'm just gonna let you whoop my ass? Like, no, you tripping.
Out of the two, Nate Robinson was clearly a far more credentialed overall athlete than Jake Paul, having spent a decade in the NBA. He was also a 3-time slam dunk champion. But the question of just how well that athleticism would translate to boxing was certainly an interesting one. And at the time, without knowing how good Paul was, it was easy to see why Robinson was so competent. And in those pre-fight interviews, he certainly had a level of self-assuredness that had many people placing their money on him to upset the YouTube star. This guy was a longtime athlete after all, and his ability to win was proven. Robinson didn't seem worried about anything Jake would bring to the table. And as this fight grew closer, he was clearly backing himself to get one over on this young upstart. With no real data to go off of, the fans didn't really know how to view this one. But both men did their part in selling the fight. But man, this was not a competitive bout, not at all. Jake Paul, as it turned out, was a far better boxer than Nate Robinson, and probably a little better than most people have given him credit for.
Say protect yourself at all times, ain't that what they say?
You betcha.
Oh!
And Jake Paul caught Nate Robinson of the
Good
way.
night, Irene.
Robinson goes face first.
6. Lord have mercy. Go. 7. Night. 8. 9.
Robinson gets back to his feet. He feels that it was back to his head. Back of his head, a rabbit punch.
Give me your gloves.
And once he landed a huge opening shot, Robinson hit the deck face down.
He's trying to get
Lord!
Mamma mia, the problem child proving to be a big problem for Nate Robinson.
No need for a follow-up. It was a clean win and the perfect highlight to kick off Jake's rise into an oddly successful crossover sensation within the sport. Nate Robinson was shown to be totally ineffective in a live fight, and all things considered, this was an embarrassing night at the office.
In London, be quiet. You know, first of all, you know, David Haye is an embarrassment. Sky Sports don't do box office because of David Haye. Yeah, he messed up box office for all the young fighters coming up, and I'm going to give him 2 slaps for that. If David Haye is a fighter, he should fight me. Adam Booth is there.
You lost 3 fights in a row.
Yeah, let's fight, man.
Excuse me.
Let's fight.
Derek Shazor can talk a good game, but by his standards, his attempts to bring David Haye down to his level were a little weak. At the time, Haye was coming off a loss to the champ Vladimir Klitschko, and so Shazor clearly felt that Haye would be an easy target, and that the time to try and coax him into a fight had come. However, Haye was quick to remind Shazor that he had lost 3 fights in his last 4, including defeats to the brother of Vladimir, Vitaly Klitschko, as well as the future champion of the division, Tyson Fury. But that didn't stop the pair from igniting a furious brawl during a press conference, forcing security to step in to separate them. Thankfully, this resulted in an actual fight being booked between the two, and Shazor was quick to bring up what he'd learned about Haye during that brawl as part of his trash talk, telling the world that he would beat the Haymaker in a street fight any day of the week. Sound like a pretty cool thing to say, right? Well, bouts aren't won and lost on the street. They take place under a set of rules in a ring, and Haye was about to prove his boxing skills beyond any doubt. Shazor was tough, and he could sell a fight as well as anyone, but he was about to get a real lesson from his rival, one that would result in a truly embarrassing defeat. On fight night, it only took Haye 5 rounds to carve out his advantage.
Good left hand from Haye, lovely punch.
Doesn't need to do that.
Well, it's been another round for Haye.
Opening up with a huge series of punches that eventually dropped Shazor to the canvas. And despite his best attempts at getting up, the referee took a hard look at him and decided that enough was enough.
He's got one of the best chins in the business, but he couldn't stand up. And he's done again! I don't think he's going to get up this time! The counts of 6 and 7 and 8. He has! He's waiting! He stopped the fight! It's all over!
Haye had won the fight by dominant 5th round TKO. And for Shazor, this marked a slide into a terrible run of form. 1-4 on your last 5 ain't a pretty record. Doesn't matter how good your level of competition is.
He's a good-looking chubby, isn't he?
Yeah.
Have you got a big Corey?
Huh?
Have you got a big Corey?
No.
Big what?
Corey.
Hey, this is getting off the chains, but
Look, we got to give Tyson Fury a bit of a pass here. He tends to trash talk all his opponents to the same degree. And looking at the pro boxing debut of the MMA fighter Francis Ngannou, how was anyone supposed to know that he'd be as good as he was?
The inevitable tension in the air in a big heavyweight clash as Fury dips down and goes to the body and then finds his range.
But either way, there was quite a lot of confidence coming from the Fury side of things before this fight. And he was quite happy to call Ngannou a dosser while bringing his skills into question. In Fury's mind, he'd already taken on and beaten the hardest punching boxer ever seen in Deontay Wilder. So what was an MMA fighter who had never competed at this level before going to bring to the table? Well, the Gypsy King was not alone in his assessment of this fight. In fact, the vast majority of people agreed with Tyson. Ngannou was just there for a paycheck, and Fury had every right to take a few verbal jabs at him. And that's exactly what he did. For this video, we're dealing with fighters who were too confident and went on to lose in unexpected fashion.
the hand battle right here.
But for this one, Tyson Fury actually won this fight.
95, 94, Ngannou, 96-93 for Fury. Winner by split decision. Still undefeated from the United Kingdom.
No, I've been hit plenty of times unexpectedly. Never been knocked out.
I think he's just trying to make
someone
himself,
on your team.
I think he's trying to make himself
someone
feel
on
better,
your team said it.
especially after him
Someone on
losing
your
to
team said
Strawman.
it, and it's true. And then you said that you were boxing professionals and you box scrubs. Energy changed real quick. Jake Paul's son, #1. Everybody. I got a question. Fuck out of you.
No, you ain't. We don't want that right now. But I got a question for you, Bryce.
I'm gonna knock out Austin because I'm an actual fighter and I got 2 guns right here. I'm scared of. I'm not scared of you. You fucking play. You're on a screen. I'm talking to a computer. I'm talking to a computer. Shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up.
Even stem from?
Well, I'll be honest. He was begging for me. He knows that there's money behind me. He wanted to suck my dick. I said no. He was sucking. You wanted this fight. I don't need this.
These YouTube boxers have a real talent for talking their way into total beatdowns that just make for amazing content. In fact, we gotta thank Bryce Hall for this absolute gem, because let's be real, his claim at being a real fighter and having legit skills is one of the most hilarious examples of empty trash talk we've ever featured on this channel.
I'll smack the fuck out your bald head, boy. Shut the fuck up.
Hey.
Don't get Shut the fuck up. I'll smack the. Suck my dick. You're in the audience. Suck my dick.
Sure, the dude can talk, which makes sense considering what he actually does for a living. But man, compared to his opponent, Austin McBroom, this guy seemed to be compensated for something. Little did he know that his total lack of natural boxing talent or instincts was about to become crystal clear to anyone who was tuned in for this dismal performance. And we're not trying to tell you that McBroom is some world beater or anything, but in there with an opponent like Hall, he actually looked like he was genuinely talented.
All right, guys, we went over the rules in the dressing room. Obey my commands at all times. Protect yourselves at all times. In case of a knockdown, go to the corner I tell you to go to, and wait for me to call you out. And most importantly, keep it clean. Touch them up.
And that's saying something, considering the usual quality levels on display for these YouTube boxing events. Most of these guys do their most confident work on the mic, not in the ring. And Bryce Hall definitely falls into that category.
Bryce Hall said he's been sparring 4 to 5 times a week. Good left hand by McBroom.
And that's the best thing these guys can do, right? It's all about experience. The more sparring, the better.
McBroom just had levels of athleticism and boxing fundamentals over his opponent, and his ability to totally beat the brakes off Hall was pretty satisfying after listening to this dude talk for so long. Eventually, the referee, like the rest of us, realized that this guy was not up to the challenge and proceeded to call off the fight, leaving the once confident Bryce Hall with his nose in a bloody mess and almighty slice of humble pie to go with it.
In the ring at this time, referee Big Chris Edgehill calls a halt to the contest at 45 seconds, round number 3. The winner by TKO victory from Team YouTube, Austin McBroom.
Anthony,
I don't think it's gonna go all the way. I think I'm gonna, have my hand raised at the end. Period.
do you think you can knock out David Benovitz?
Oh, for sure. He got hurt with a jab and dropped with a jab. I hit harder than Gabriel. I promise I do. Coming.
He's tough.
I'm a monster in there. I'm a monster.
Look, it's hard not to like Anthony Derell. The dude has an ability to sell a fight that usually sees him bring an undeniable level of fun to proceedings. But the problem with calling out a fighter like David Benovitz for not having a good chin is that you're basically asking for him to put a beating on you. And sure, Derell is always going to take shots at his opponent from any angle that he can find, but some part of him should have known just how dangerous his opponent would be for him, and how his words would come back to bite him. If you watch this channel, you'll know that we've featured Derell a few times now.
You don't got that one knockout power.
I put people to hospitals. That's what I do.
Man, stop. Everybody go to hospital get checked.
That's what Jay Leon Love said the last. That's what Jay Leon Love said the last case. He said I don't hit like that. What happened
on your life? It's fine.
What happened to him?
You can't blame the dude for trying, but it's pretty fair to say that he bit off way more than he could chew. If you've ever seen Benovitz fight, you'll know just how much punishment he's capable of dishing out. And if you give him some added motivation like what happened here, then good luck escaping unscathed. This is yet another example of a guy who probably could have helped his own standing and his reputation by just keeping his mouth shut. But hey, these guys just don't ever seem to learn. Derell did his best to keep up his brave face in there with Benovitz, eating a huge amount of damage coming into round 9.
Once again, we check in with our unofficial scorer, Marcos. By Benovitz. Great liver shot on the right hand. This is going to end any second.
Just right now, just getting battered by David Benovitz.
He even laughed in David's face while taking shots. But it was clear that this fight was getting away from him. And if his corner hadn't decided to throw in the towel, he would have been KO'd. No doubt about it. There are levels to the elite boxing game. And it was obvious after this one just how far above Anthony Derell you'd have to look to find the great David Benovitz. A good old-fashioned schooling in the boxing ring.
The WBC Super Middleweight Champion of the World, El Bandera Roja, David Benovitz.
Gonna come out smoking, and I ain't gonna be joking. I'll be pecking and a poking, pouring water on this smoking. And this might shock and amaze you, but I will destroy Joe Frasier. Some people say you better watch Joe Frasier, he's awful strong. I said, tell him to try band roll on.
I want to make one prediction. I'm not calling around. I predict that when I meet Joe Frasier, this will be like a good amateur fighting a real professional. This will be like a kid out of the Olympics meeting the fastest heavyweight champion that ever lived. This will be no contest. This fight will be much easier. No contest. All right,
what do you say, Joe? What do you say to that? I'd say he's nothing but a bunch of noise, that's all. He's going way back in the time of, let's say, 20 years ago, you know what I mean? This is the day, man, you understand? I just want you not fighting Rory, you're not fighting Oscar Bonavena, you're not fighting Sonny Liston, you fighting Joe Frasier. Everybody knows that's not the point. That's the point. Yo, what's your prediction? My prediction, the fight wouldn't go to this.
Muhammad Ali was most certainly a well-loved and respected figure in boxing history, and for good reason. But his cruel trash-talking of Joe Frasier across the legendary trilogy has definitely not aged well, as some might think. Sure, the pair would eventually go on to become friends in their later years, but Ali certainly turned up the heat on Frasier consistently, and it all kicked off during their first meeting, a fight that Ali came in extremely competent for. And he made no secret of how untroubled he was by Frasier as an opponent, telling the world that this challenge would not be comparable to the ones we'd already watched him overcome. Joe Frasier was no Sonny Liston in his eyes, and therefore the fans shouldn't expect this unheralded contender to be anything more than a name to fill out the great Muhammad Ali's resume. Sure, Ali is a legend of the game, but the way he overlooked Frasier was completely arrogant, and he didn't realize that he was dealing with one of the great heavyweight boxers of his era, a fighter who would give him some of the toughest nights of his entire career. But he would get a rude awakening before long, that's for sure. On fight night, what seemed to be yet another triumphant win for Ali turned into one of the most difficult fights of his career, a night that made a star of the great Joe Frasier.
Clay is 9.5 pounds heavier. He's 15 stone 5 against 14.9.5. He outreaches Frasier by 8.5 inches, and he's 4 inches taller.
Ali's ability to be elusive and utilize his footwork was constantly stifled by Frasier's pressure and ability to leap in with huge shots. And though the fight was close, the biggest moment undoubtedly went to the challenger, as he managed to knock Ali down to the canvas with a huge shot, turning the momentum of this one entirely in his favor.
Oh, there it is! The left hook! Frasier's at last caught up with him. Tremendous left hook. He was up at 5, compulsory 8 count. So Clay down, the first knockdown of the fight. Tremendous left hook. Can Frasier now finish him in the last round?
Despite being written off by the champ and the general public, Frasier had pulled off the unthinkable, handing Ali his first ever professional loss.
For Ali, 11-4, the winner by unanimous decision.